Hello, my name is Dr. Tina Ward. I'm a family practice physician here in Austin, Texas. Welcome to the Health and Wellness webinar brought to you by Austin Black Physicians Association, also known as ABPA. The mission of ABPA is to improve the health disparities in our community and to inspire and nurture the next generation of Black physicians. If you're interested in learning more about ABPA or partnering with us, please visit us at austinbpa.com. Again, connect with us at austinbpa.com. The purpose of these webinars is to bring health information to our community from trusted voices in the community. And today we're very, very excited to have two wonderful physicians join us today. So please share this webinar widely. Dr. Waltz, can you start by introducing yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Ward. My name is Dr. Desmar Walks. I'm a family practitioner in Bastrop, Texas, and the local health authority in Bastrop, Texas. And I'm happy to be here to talk about our exciting new vaccines to help prevent COVID-19.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Walks. Dr. Isaac Williams?
Hi, my name is Dominique Isaac Williams, and I am a family physician in Austin, Texas. I work for Austin Regional Clinic, and I am located in the northwest part of town, but we're a large organization. And again, we look forward to being able to distribute vaccine as well to the community when that opportunity comes.
Excellent. Thank you both so much. So we'll get started with some of the questions the community has been asking us as they go on our website, as well as a lot of the ones that all of us have experienced from all of our friends and family. So let's start with this. How would you expect our Black patients to have confidence in the safety and efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccine, given the speed in which it was developed? Dr.
Well,
either one of you, jump in.
Well, what I was going to say is I think many patients might be familiar with the shingles vaccine, and that also is an mRNA vaccine. And so I think it's important to note that while it might seem like it was fast and the testing length of time that we usually test vaccine for were shortened, it's not a new technology. It's something that we're familiar with. It has actually created a new vaccine, the shingles vaccine, which is much more effective than older vaccines. And so we know that this technology is not something new, but something that we have experience with. And then we have experience with vaccines over a long period of time now. And so creating a new vaccine is more like just finding that piece of the puzzle that works, that piece of the protein of the COVID virus that will, react. But it's not a new technology or something different. It was just finding kind of just that right puzzle piece that would work.
So can you address the concerns that patients have of feeling like they're also a guinea pig or a human test subject? Obviously, after the experience with the Tuskegee experiment and study, some of people have a lot of concerns. Dr. Walks, what do you think about that?
Well, I'd like to add that this vaccine was developed a lot more quickly than we would normally see a vaccine being developed, because there was a collaboration of scientists all over the world. And so that the phases of things that normally would take years to perform were parceled out to different scientists across the globe. And each one was working simultaneously with the help of some great logistics and planning people in our Department of the Army, the CDC, and so on. Long list of very established organizations in our country that were overseeing this, and that was called Operation Warp Speed. So the fact that it took a lot less time than it normally does is because we were actually working together on this with other scientists and many companies that would normally be competitors were working together to collaborate to get something done, because we were dealing with a worldwide problem. So having said that, we're not being guinea pigs at this point. There have been phase 3 trials, and there were hundreds of thousands of people that were involved in those trials for all the different types of vaccine candidates, is what they call them, or types of vaccine that have been developed. The two that have been approved, Pfizer and Moderna, have now been out since the end of December. And as of a call that I recently took, there have been some 41 million people who've received vaccinations in our country. And they've determined that of all of the 14 million doses, and of the concerns that have been shared about adverse events or things that happen that we don't really want to happen, like somebody got sick or unfortunately somebody passed. They've researched all of those reports, and there have been no reports of death that were associated with the vaccine. And all of the all of the reports that were gathered of adverse events were not serious. They weren't, the majority of them were things like the shot site got red or swelled up, or somebody had some fainting episode, which happens sometimes when people have their blood drawn, or they get a shot, they get nervous, excited, and they feel faint. So, and that's been my experience. We've given over 5,000 injections here in Bastrop now, and are due to do another 5,000 this week. And most of the time people are really kind of anxious about getting shots. I myself don't like shots very much, but I stuck my arm out for my COVID shots because I was really excited that it was here. And I have to tell you also that I did a lot of research about safety and efficacy before I took that shot, for the very same reasons you brought up, Dr. Ward. And so I feel confident when I sit here and tell you truthfully that it's safe.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walk.
And if I could add one more thing too, I think it is very important that, things have changed since Tuskegee. You have, independent review boards and things. And if we're not part of trials as a people, then they're going to keep creating technologies and moving forward for the majority group and leaving us behind. So, at some point, we have to start trusting the system to a certain extent, finding physicians and people that we trust that can, guide us to reputable studies, so that, these studies can be done with our population, so that they can address special issues that might come up in our community, so that they can recognize those things and sometimes make adjustments if needed. If you just beyond immunizations, cancer therapies and stuff, if we're not part of these studies, then we won't reap the benefits as they come out with new drugs and technologies.
Thank you so much, both of you, for answering that. I will tell you that personally, with over 500,000 deaths that we've had due to COVID at this point, I still have friends who are commenting, believing that it's a hoax. And it's extremely upsetting for many of us. I've lost an aunt, an uncle, my husband's lost an uncle, I lost my best friend's father, and numerous other friends and family. So as we go through these and we understand all the misinformation that's out there, what would you say to people who think this is a hoax, that they don't really believe they need to wear masks or get the vaccination?
I would say that this is a disease that you can't see it, and it's an enemy that you can't see, if you want to use a war analogy. And it's transmitted in the air in small droplet particles. And we know that wearing a mask is going to prevent you from inhaling that and contracting that disease. And there have been several studies to show that throughout this pandemic. And our communities, our Black and Brown communities, are disproportionately being affected by this. There are lots of postulates as to why that is. It may be because we don't go out and seek healthcare as much. Could be because of that fact in and of itself, that we have more chronic health conditions. But the fact remains that when you look at the numbers that are being gathered, we are being disproportionately affected. So I implore those that are listening to this to wear a mask. It can mean the difference between you getting sick and or you getting sick and making your mother sick or your father sick. It's sad to watch people come in here talking about, I didn't believe it, I wouldn't wear a mask, I got COVID and I got my mother sick and she died. That's heartbreaking and that's real. And I think after you've gotten to hear about the illness, people were fatigued by that, and some people are starting to be fatigued by the number of people who've died. But it's real and it's heartbreaking, and we can stop it. So I urge everybody to wear their masks.
Thank you so much. Dr. Williams, Isaac Williams, did you want to come?
No,
Okay.
it's the same thing she said. I mean, I think that you can't say it's a hoax until it happens to you. And the other thing I would say is that even though they keep saying there are high risk groups, the truth of the matter is a lot of people know the healthy 40-year-old who succumbed to COVID while grandma who's 80 pulled through. And so we just don't know, we don't know enough about, really who is high risk. And so you don't want to take that chance. Like you said, you might survive it and have a mild case and then give it to a loved one or a friend, and then they succumb to it.
Thank you so much. That is a very good point. So one of the things I get people asking me, which vaccine should I take? Pfizer, Moderna? Can you address some of the efficacy, safety factors regarding both of them?
They're both very efficacious. And I've been telling people whichever vaccine you get, you take. I mean, in all honesty, they both have like 90% efficacy, over 90% efficacy. And the truth of the matter is that they have shown with both of the vaccinations that have been approved so far, and then we know there are more coming through the pipeline, that even if you would unfortunately get COVID, those who have been vaccinated have less risk of death and morbidity. So it makes a huge difference of being vaccinated, just like all vaccines, right? It doesn't mean 100% you won't get it, but you're less likely to die from it. You're less likely to have complications if you do get the illness. So whichever one you can get it.
Well, the irony is, as soon as people heard it was an mRNA vaccine, they said, oh, is this going to alter my DNA? Can I get COVID from the vaccine? What do you have to say regarding that?
You can't get COVID from taking this vaccine. The mRNA vaccines that have been developed are developed based upon something called the spike protein, which is the part of the viral molecule, the cell, that can attach to cells to infect them. And so you won't get COVID from this vaccination or either of the vaccinations, but you will develop what we call proteins that are called antibodies that help your body to fight off, or your immune system to fight off the virus itself. So it won't alter your DNA. That's another thing that we've heard. And I heard one person tell me when I was talking to a church audience, ask me if it caused any kind of chip implantation, and it doesn't do that either. It's just helping you make antibodies so that you can fight off the infection as best you can. But as Dr. Ward said, you still have a chance of getting COVID. It's a small chance because they're 95% effective. But just like when you have a flu shot, sometimes you can get the flu. It's always a milder case of the flu. The same is true with COVID. It's a less severe illness if you get COVID. So knowing that you could possibly get COVID means that you still have to wear your mask. And if I may, I'd like to say we've got some variations on the theme. I think everybody's heard about these variants. And these mRNA vaccines do help protect you against the variants. So whatever one you can get it.
Exactly.
Thank you. I know one of the questions that I've gotten recently from some of our community members are, how do we know that this vaccine is going to be effective against some of the new variants from the United Kingdom, Brazil, or South Africa? I noted in the research, I was really happy to hear that one of the endpoints that I think sometimes people forget is taking the vaccine means that you're not going to get clinically ill. Sometimes we use that. That was the endpoint. We're still not sure completely about the transmission, but more recently did find out that you're less likely to transmit it, and you definitely are less likely to get severe illness from it. And that is a very, very important point. So let's kind of address, why do I still need to wear a mask? Why do I still need to social distance? If I got the vaccine, why isn't it just effective? Let's kind of address instilling your nasopharynx, kind of explain a little bit about that, Dr. Williams.
Well, to your point, we don't know yet how effective it is in preventing, like it prevents you from getting sick, but we don't know that it prevents you from transmitting. We don't know 100%. So you have to consider, even though we've had, I believe you said 14 million people with one dose, I think it's another 5 or 6 million that have gotten both doses. So that's the first piece. Not everyone's fully vaccinated. We haven't reached that 70% or more of the population to consider that whole herd immunity thing. So it's still an issue in our community that even though you're vaccinated, you're still doing it. That was the whole mask thing anyway. Besides protecting yourself, you're doing it a lot for your community and those you care for. And so just because you have the vaccine, several friends, family members may not have had it. And so again, you don't want to transmit it, and you want to protect yourself and you want to protect them. So it's again the idea of community and caring for others as well, not just for yourself.
Excellent. Thank you. That's very helpful. Side effects. Let's go through some of the side effects of the vaccine. I have to admit, Dr. Walks, I was so happy to get my vaccine shot. I was like, please, thank you. I really want to go out in public a little bit more. It's just been very frustrating. The COVID fatigue associated with this has been overwhelming. And I also want to make sure that I don't get somebody else sick because of this asymptomatic infection. It's extremely upsetting to think you may have given it to somebody else because you didn't have any symptoms. So I was really excited. I only got a sore arm. That's all I had was a sore arm if I lifted my arm up. So first day I couldn't golf very well, but I can attribute that to the vaccine too, by the way. But Dr. Wonks, why don't you tell us about some of the possible side effects of the vaccine?
Well, when the ACIP committee listened to the testimony when they were approving these vaccines, they told us that the side effects were very minimal. Injection site soreness, redness, maybe some minor swelling, maybe a low-grade fever, maybe some headache, body aches, but that all went away with using Tylenol or Advil, those kinds of things. And that's really been playing out to be true in personal experience with the 5,000 folks we've vaccinated. That's what we're seeing, and it's very, very rare, especially with the first dose. We're using the Moderna vaccine, and sometimes with the second dose, we are seeing a little bit more of the achy, headachy, low-grade temp. But that's really short-lived, maybe 24 hours, and goes away with using Tylenol. So overall, it's been working well, and that's going across the board, from the 99-year-old that got the first shot to down to the younger folks that have gotten it in their 60s. That's young nowadays, and so that's been the experience. We've had nobody that's had any severe adverse reactions.
Can you also address who are the people who should not get this vaccine?
People that have an allergy to the compound, the polyethylene glycol, that's the compound that's in things like your stool preparations like Miralax, that kind of thing, shouldn't get this particular compound. There are very, very few people that have that. But otherwise, the actual vaccine itself has been clean as far as being given to people that have allergies. I personally have allergies to mold and those sorts of things, and if I'm exposed to large quantities of them, I can have swelling of my lips and all the rest of it. But I still was able to take this vaccine without any problems. It's okay to give it to people that have seafood, shellfish allergies, sulfa allergies, aspirin allergies. the usual types of things that you're going to hear questions about that. And it's pretty much pretty clean vaccine. If you have any kind of severe allergic reaction to the first shot for some reason, you shouldn't have the second shot, but pretty much clear to go with it.
Excellent, excellent. So if I had a COVID-19 infection, do I still need to get the vaccine? And if so, when would I get the vaccine?
So they're recommending now that you wait 90 days, so 3 months. And the reason for that is really more because it's almost because we're not giving as much vaccine as we want to. So they know that you have pretty strong immunity from having had an infection for 90 days, maybe up to 6 months, but it then starts to wane. And so it's more of, we know you're protected for 90 days. So, you can kind of let those at higher risk get the vaccine. But I've been recommending to people definitely that if the opportunity comes and it's been a couple of months since your infection, go ahead and get the vaccine if possible, because it's not really a contraindication more than it was, well, if you just recently had COVID infection and we're trying to get people vaccinated, you can wait a little bit, but it's not detrimental to get the vaccine after having it. And you do want to get it because we know that the natural immunity doesn't last as long as you might have hoped.
And does that also apply to people who got COVID and had convalescent plasma antibodies, different things like that?
So people who've been treated with monoclonal antibodies or convalescent plasma are being advised to wait for 90 days so that they would have the best result from receiving the vaccines that are available.
Excellent. Wow, you guys have answered a lot of incredible, wonderful questions today, and I really appreciate your time in doing this because this has been a difficult topic for our community. And as you're aware, our minority population is very hesitant, has more vaccine hesitancy than some of the others. So we're looking forward to partnering with some of the churches so that we can actually get that vaccine out there to our population. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Any resources you think people should utilize so they could get more information, more education on this?
There's some excellent resources on the CDC website, and they are cdc.gov/vaccines/COVID-19. And you can look in there for some good resources that can answer your questions. And also the State Department of State Health Services website for the state of Texas has also a lot of information that's user-friendly for folks to look through and gain some more information to any questions that we may not have covered today.
Well, excellent.
I'd also like to add that I know one question I've gotten a lot of is people who are immunocompromised for different reasons. And while we would encourage them to get the vaccine, I've been telling people, talk to your rheumatologist, talk to your endocrinologist, things like that, because I think there's a lot of hesitancy and concern there because they feel like their immune system's already compromised. Why would I get the vaccine? So I've been, again, if you have a trusted provider that you're working with, talk to them so that they can reassure you that that's reasonable, because I think that's been something that's come up quite a bit recently in our practice, is people who are immunocompromised already.
And some of the pregnant patients have made the decision to get it, looking at risk benefits. That's kind of what I tell people, the benefits definitely outweigh the risk, and that's what you have to look at when you're in this position right now. I am excited to say February 26th, the FDA is meeting to discuss our third vaccination that's going to hopefully get approval. The Janssen Biotech Incorporated vaccine is going to be up for emergency use authorization on February 26th. So we have lots of options, and I thank you both. There will be some information that's following this, and thank you for tuning in with us on this webinar. Both doctors have given us so much valuable information, and we're very grateful to that. If you would like to receive more information about COVID-19, please partner with us. Go into austinbpa.com and log in, ask us questions. We're here to help you. So thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you'd like to partner with us, that's austinbpa.com. Thank you very much for joining us today.